All right, everyone. Welcome to our session. My name is John Eisenhower. Today we're going to go over a few things about DRE.097, mostly about navigating the Blackboard course. We're going to go a little bit over the syllabus and talk a little bit about Module 1. So thanks for coming, and if you miss anything, just remember I'll make this recording available, and you can review the recording at a later time. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about today is I just want to introduce myself. I'm John Eisenhower. I've been teaching developmental studies classes at Fayetteville Tech since the fall of 2003, so that would mean 13 years coming up, and I really enjoy it. This is the first session of Collaborate that I've had for a DRE.097 class, and I really appreciate you guys coming. And so, with that being said, sometimes folks have a few issues with DRE.097 online, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that most of our students are brand new. Most of the students that I find in my online class of DRE.097 are brand new students or college students, and they've never been to college before, and often they're taking a lot of hours, often online, and so it takes them a little bit to get acclimated to the class, and that's why I'm having, or just online studies in general, and that's why I want to have this little session today. So the first thing I want to go over is the syllabus just a little bit. And the way we find our syllabus, when we log into the course, you should see a page that looks a lot like this one with the banner at the top that says Welcome to DRE.097 and the announcements. And you always want to read all of the announcements. I almost always send them as email messages as well, just in case you want to read them through your email. The announcements have a lot of important information in them that's generally there to remind students of due dates, or just to give them important information about completing assignments successfully, or things like that. Now, there are just a few things I want to go over with the syllabus, and the way you find the syllabus is using the blue buttons over here. You'll notice that the blue buttons on the left-hand side give direct access to many of the different areas of the course. Of course, there's the announcements area and the instructor information, which gives you, you can see a nice picture of me, and and read some things about how to get in touch with me. And then there's other information about FGCC in general. And then the fifth button down is the syllabus. Now, when you click on the syllabus, when you get a syllabus for every college class, you want to read the entire syllabus. Now, I know it's long, and a lot of it's going to be repetitive from class to class, but you want to make sure that you read the syllabus, because this is essentially a contract to tell you how you will be successful in the class. And it tells all the policies and things like that. Okay, so a few things that I want to describe to you guys. You can see this information up here. I'm not going to go over it too much. If you want to download a hard copy of the syllabus, the best thing to do is to click this link here, and probably the better thing to do is to right-click it, or click it with the right mouse button and open the link in a new tab or new window, and you'll download a PDF copy that you can print out or save to your computer. You have the course description, of course. And I just wanted to go over a few things like the required textbook. For this class, the required textbook is the Nexus textbook. Some students are still using, some DRE.097 classes are still using the Outcasts United novel. We will not be using that in this class. The only book you need for this class is Nexus. Other required materials and software, there's not really anything else required except that we will use Google Drive in this class, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Okay, the second thing I want to talk to everyone about is the grade scale. Now, in order to pass this class, students need to earn an 80 or above. This is a rule that comes down to us from the state. Fayetteville Tech didn't make the rule. John Eisenhower didn't make the rule. This comes down from the State Board of Community Colleges. And so students have to earn a grade of 80, which basically means they have to get a B, because Fayetteville Tech is on the 10-point grading scale. And I found that to be pretty fair myself. Students who make below an 80 in the class will need to take it again, or retake the placement test and try to place out of it. And these are right here where it says course requirements, methods of evaluation. These are the ways that students will earn, these are the ways that students will be evaluated in this class. And there are a number of assignments that students will have to do. 50% of the grade comes from 3 papers that we'll write. We have a first paper, which is called an exemplification paper. We'll start that next week. Our second paper is a cause and effect paper. We'll start that in Module 4. And the final paper is the argument paper, which we will start in Module 6. And those 3 assignments are going to make up 50% of the grade. This class focuses very heavily on the writing aspects. You do have, and we call those our high stakes assignments because they're worth a lot of points toward the final grade. And you can see that the first paper is worth 15, second paper is worth 15, and the third paper is worth a whopping 20% of the final grade. So those are extremely important that those are done and done on time. The low stakes assignments are still important, but they don't count nearly as much. We have an MLA formatting assignment, which actually is due this week. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. That's 5% of the final grade. Each of the 3 papers that we do will have a first draft, and the first drafts of those papers are worth 5% each for a total of 15%. There are confirmation quizzes. We call them, there's quizzes in the first 7 modules. There's no quiz in Module 8, and altogether those quizzes are worth 10% of the grade, so not a whole lot per each quiz, but they kind of add up and they're significant. There's a discussion board in every module, modules 1 through 8, and altogether those are worth 15% of the final grade, so about 2% apiece. And then there is a presentation assignment, and it is worth 5% of the final grade. So if you have any questions about any of those assignments, the low stakes or the high stakes, the best thing to do is to either send an email to me with the question or post a question in the questions for the instructor discussion board, and I will answer it usually within 24 hours during the week or 48 hours over the weekend. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is the makeup policy of this class. Now, we don't need to read every single item here on the syllabus together. You should read it on your own. But I do want to point out just the basics, okay? Number one, this is an 8-week class, not a 16-week class. So the Fayetteville Tech official makeup policy, which says that students have a week to get some work in, is actually shortened. And in fact, instead of having a week, we in this 8-week class only have 3 days. And there are only certain assignments can be turned in late. Basically, it's like this. The writing assignments can be turned in up to 3 days late. That means if they're due on a Tuesday, they can be turned in through Friday. But each day late, there's a 10% grade penalty. So it's always best to get stuff in on time. So the writing assignments can be turned in. They'll be due on Tuesdays. They can be submitted by Friday, but each day that they're late, there's a 10% grade reduction per day. Now, the other 2 assignments that you'll see a lot in the classes are the quizzes and the discussion boards. Now, these cannot be turned in late for any reason, and I'll tell you why. The quizzes, I have the quizzes set so that after the due date, the answers to the quizzes become available, and everyone can see the questions they got right and questions they got wrong. And so because of that, because the answers become available and anyone can see them, those assignments can't be turned in late because anyone could just go and look up the answers, and that's why those can't be turned in late. The discussion boards is kind of similar. The discussion boards require interaction with classmates. In all the discussion threads, students will be asked to make an original posting that answers certain discussion questions and then respond to 2 classmates. Well, if a student were to do that late, they wouldn't be interacting with the classmates, or they could respond to the classmates, but no one would be there to see them, and so that's why those can't be turned in late. So bottom line is, writing assignments can be turned in up to 3 days late with a 10% penalty per day. Quizzes and discussion boards cannot be turned in late. Okay, attendance policy doesn't really apply too much for this class because it's an online class. There's no requirement to be in the class on certain days or at certain times. We will have a few of these live sessions just to touch base, but they're not required. However, people should be aware that students who don't participate for any 2 weeks, and they don't have to be 2 weeks in a row, but if a student gets all zeros for assignments for any 2 weeks, then they are subject to withdrawal from the class. So, but of course, that won't be a surprise. I'll send a bunch of emails and things like that. So it shouldn't be a surprise, but just be aware that Any student who does not participate for 2 weeks, not necessarily consecutive 2 weeks, are subject to being withdrawn from the class for lack of participation. Also, Americans with disabilities, if anyone has a disability, please contact our Disability Services Office, and I would be more than happy, more than willing, not only am I required to, but I'd be more than happy to provide any accommodations that are necessary. However, I do have the course set up so that I generally don't have to give any accommodations, because I've pretty much designed the course so it can accommodate lots of different people, lots of different schedules, things like that. Okay, we'll talk about plagiarism a lot more. There is a quiz that has a lot to do with plagiarism that's required this week, and that quiz basically, in a nutshell, sums up everything. But the bottom line as far as plagiarism goes is that students are expected to write the papers themselves. Students should not go online or the internet to look things up, try to get ideas, and especially not copy paste other people's work. And so just be aware that there are penalties for plagiarism. Later on in the semester, we will start working with using some sources, but all those sources will come from Nexus, and I will show you guys in the assignment sheet how to cite them properly. So basically the bottom line is don't use any outside sources except for the ones that are required by the assignments, and those will be made very clear in the assignments themselves. Okay. A few other bits of contact information that you need to know is how to get in touch with Sarah Bruton, the program coordinator, and Dean Jackson. There is a grievance procedure. Now, this generally does not apply to my classes because students generally don't have any problems with me that we can't work out ourselves. However, if that situation does arise, as it does every once in a while, these would be your next points of contact. However, there is a certain procedure to go through, and it's listed here on the syllabus. All instructors were required to put this procedure on there. However, I haven't really there's just not that much experience with that in my classes because we generally can work things out on our own. And of course, I appreciate any opportunity to help you out that I can have. All right, the last thing I want to talk about in the syllabus is the outline of instruction. The outline of instruction is basically our course calendar. It's listed here at the bottom of the syllabus, and it lists every module and every assignment and how much that assignment is worth on the final grade. So it's good to take a look at these items and just so you can kind of know what's coming up. And that's pretty much it for this syllabus. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is I just want to go into the assignments area, go into the modules themselves, and talk a little bit about how to navigate the course and how to complete the assignments each week. So I'm going to go into the assignments area. And you'll see that there's only one module available right now, and that's Module 1, the current module we'll be working on. In the coming weeks, I believe I have them set up to appear on Mondays. On Monday, the modules another module will open, and you'll see it at the bottom of your screen. So Module 1 will remain open. Not all of the assignments, not all of the pages in Module 1 will be available to you, but Module 2 will open, Module 3, and so on as they open up, as students are prepared to work on them as we progress through the course. But anyway, this is where you'll go to access those modules, is the assignments area of the course. So you can see on the outside of every module, there are the due dates, when we'll be working on the module, and also a brief description of what's due during that module. And I do this just to try to avoid some confusion and to allow students to kind of get the gist of what's going on in each module without having to go inside of every module. Once you know which module you're working on, you click on the actual link that says Module 1, and you go into the modules. Now, every module is set up to navigate the same way. Now, I use the official FTCC course template. Every online course is required to do this. Some instructors are better at it than others, I should say. Some people haven't really got the hang of using the course template, but this is the it's called Common Navigation that all online courses are supposed to use, and it's official, and it comes down from FTCC. And it starts out, every module will start out on the module introduction page. And you can see there are two ways to navigate through the module. You can either use the page navigation on the right-hand side where you can click the button that says page 1 of 8, and you can click the buttons and flip between the pages, or you can go directly to pages here using these links on the left where it says module introduction, outcomes, assignment summary, etc. Now, the way the modules are set up is that the first time that students log into each module, they really should go through every page and read every word of every page so that they can get an idea of what's expected for them for that week. Now, when you come in, it's really when you come in for the second time that you can use the links on the left to navigate to the page for the assignment that you're working on. So let's talk a little bit about what we'll see on each page, and then we'll talk about, we'll wrap it up by talking about the assignments themselves. So if we go into the module introduction, this just lets us know what we're working on this week and why. And if we go to page 2, that's the module outcomes. These are not the assignments. What outcomes are these? This is what an outcome is, a course outcome, is it lets you guys know, and it lets me know as the instructor, and it lets anybody who would come in from the state or from Fayetteville Tech, lets us know what we're supposed to learn as applies to the class that week. And so what the outcomes are, they're not the assignments. What they do is they explain how the assignments in this module apply to the overall course outcomes for the class in general. Page 3 actually gives students a summary of the assignments themselves. This is the activities we will actually complete for this week. And you can see that I usually have my assignment summary separated into 3 areas: videos, readings, and assignments that are due. I do encourage you to watch all the videos that I post. They have some pretty good information, and mostly they have a lot of demonstrations of some of the technical procedures you'll need to do in order to complete the assignments each week. And then, of course, students should complete the readings as well. And probably most important is students should actually complete the assignments, because this is where the grades come from. This is where the grades come from, and you can see which assignments are due in the week and how much they're worth on the final grade. Going forward on page 4, you have the Academic Integrity and Syllabus Quiz. You can access it either by clicking the link up at the top that says Open Self-Assessment, or you can click the link that says Click to Launch, and you can complete a quiz. All of our quizzes are mostly multiple choice, but there are some short answer items at the end of each quiz that you'll need to answer accordingly for points. You can complete you have 3 attempts to complete the quiz. After you complete the quiz, you'll get a summary of the assignment, of the questions that you got right and got wrong. But of course, you won't be able to look at the answers until after the quiz is due. But you'll be able to access the quiz to take it 3 times before the due date. Now, of course, after the due date, you won't be able to take it because the answers will be available, but you'll have 3 attempts to do your best on the quiz before the due date. Now, I do encourage you to take the quiz multiple times and try to get 100, because they do count for a grade. All right, moving on to page 5. Okay, each week except for week 8, or module 8, we have a writing assignment, and this week's assignment is the MLA example. The only purpose for this assignment is just to get students to familiarize themselves with using Google Drive and to set up a document in MLA format. MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and this is the way we're going to set up all of our documents for the writing assignments that we do during each week. And so basically we're just getting some practice doing that. Now there is, now in order to show me that you can do the MLA format, you'll need to type a little bit, just 2 lines of text. But I don't care what you write about. You can write about what you had for lunch that day. You can write about how much you love your dog. None of that matters. There's no specific assignment. But all you need to do is set up a document in MLA format, write 2 lines of anything just so I can see that you can do the paragraph indentation correctly, and just turn it in. And that's all you'll have to do for this week for your writing assignment. And of course, there are videos, and there's a document that shows text instructions that explains it if you'd rather read it. There is a sample document to show you what it's supposed to look like, and then there's a video to show you how to do it. So I do encourage you to use all those resources as you prepare the document. Moving on to page 6. This is the page where you'll actually submit the document. Now, you may be wondering why I have the instructions to the assignment and the page to submit the assignment on separate pages, and here's why. After the assignment is due, this assignment is due on Tuesday. Now, as I said before, I'll accept it through Friday, although there will be a 10% grade penalty per day. But after Friday, this page, the page we're looking at right now, the Safe Assignment link, will shut down and students will no longer have access to it and they will no longer be able to complete the assignment. However, the page with the assignment instructions will still be available just in case students would like to reference it later on in the course. So that's why I have the page with the assignment instructions and the page to turn in the assignment separated. That way that I can shut it down after it's due, after the kind of late period, and still leave the instructions available to students for their reference just in case they need it to help them out for a future assignment, because we will use the MLA instructions, or we will use MLA format for the rest of our writing assignments. Now, of course, you can see the due date here at the top, and there are instructions for how to, and you can see here yet it says this video contains instructions for uploading Google Documents to the Safe Assignment link in Blackboard, and it'll actually show you how to download a document from Google Drive and upload it to the Safe Assignment link in Blackboard properly. So that should give you guys some help on that. All right, page 7. Okay, page 7, this is our discussion forum assignment. Now again, you want to read this entire page. This is the official Fayetteville Tech template for how to do a discussion board assignment. So you want to read the entire page just to let you know exactly why we're doing it, what its purpose is, and any resources you'll need, and how I'm going to grade it. And then finally, when you get to the bottom, but a lot of students really want to know, what do I need to do? What do I actually need to do for this assignment? And you find that really at the bottom where it says the prompt. So the section at the bottom that says the prompt, that is going to give you your actual discussion questions. Now, when you log in to do the discussion, I'll actually launch this to kind of demonstrate it. Okay, so when you click to launch the forum, what you're going to get is a message that says this is a post-first discussion forum. There are currently 17 threads in this forum. Join the conversation by creating a thread. What I'm trying to do is to keep students to keep them honest in a way, so that they have to answer the discussion questions before they're able to see anybody else's. Now, don't worry too much about whether you get the question right or get the question wrong. Mostly what I want you to do, especially for a week like today, like this week where we're just trying to answer about our schedules, what I really intend for you to do is to answer each question to the best of your ability. And I might ask you some follow-up questions in the discussion when I see your answers, if your answers need further explanation or specifics. But we can handle that one-on-one when we get into the discussion. And I try to give you an opportunity to provide those correct answers before I grade the questions at the end of the week. And so what I want you to do is to create the thread, answer the question. Now, this week I'll be a little bit more lenient because we're just getting started, but in future weeks I can only count those first posts. I can only count them if you answer the questions in the first post. So, just be careful that that you don't create a thread until you're actually ready to answer the questions. And then you would create the thread, answer the questions, and if you forget what they are, they're listed right up here. Answer the questions, and it is always better to copy, paste the questions in, and then answer them underneath, just to keep you straight. Make sure that you remember what the questions are and that you answer every part of the question. Answer the questions and then click submit, and then I will see your answers and I can grade them later on in the week after the due date. Once you create your original thread, you'll want to go in and respond to the answers of two classmates. And I have some instructions and some advice for how to do that, but basically you just want to go in and tell them something that you guys had in common or how you answered it differently, and then end with a follow-up question to kind of keep the conversation rolling. All right, so let me cancel out of this. So we can go back into the assignments area, back into module 1, and we were on page 7 with the discussion board, but I'm going to go to page 8. Now page 8 is the questions for the instructor thread. Every module ends with a link to the questions for the instructor thread. And you can go into the questions for instructor thread, and this is where you can ask me a question. Now you can see we already have had a few questions in here and some answers. And what happens is that when you post a question here, everybody can see it. So you want to keep your questions, if you want to post a question here, you want to keep it focused on course material. You don't want to ask me questions about your specific grade. You don't want to put personal information here because everybody can see it. But what happens is if you ask a question here, I get an email that tells me there's a question that needs to be answered. Now I come in here, answer the question, and then you can see my answer. And I do recommend that you subscribe to this discussion board. I'm subscribed to it. You can do that by clicking the subscription button here where it says subscribe. I do recommend that you subscribe to this thread, and that way when anyone posts a question, you can see what question they post. And when I post my answer, you can see the answer that I gave. And that's really important because students generally have similar questions. And so if somebody else is asking a question, it's likely that it's something that you may need to know the answer to, even if you hadn't thought of that question before. So it's really helpful, and it really helps us see things from the student perspective when you subscribe to this thread and ask questions in this thread. But remember, the questions should be about assignments in general, not really anything personal like grades or anything about, say, turning in late work or things like that. Okay, now there's a lot more that we can talk about in future live sessions, but I think I'm going to wrap things up here. We've been working for about half an hour, and I don't want to make the session too long just because I don't want too long of a recording. I want to make this accessible for anyone. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I want to thank the two of you for coming in and being my two guinea pigs, so to speak. And if you have any questions, you know, probably later on as we get more familiar with the sessions, I'll ask you guys some questions and try to make the sessions a little bit more interactive. But I'll try to make the questions a little bit more interactive, try to make the sessions a little bit more fun as we get more used to it. But for right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and shut down the questions and or go ahead and shut down the session, and I'll make the recording available. And if there's anything I can do for you, just, you know, send an email to me. And I do want to help you to the best of my ability. So get in the course, get in as early as you can, start work, and ask questions. That's the key to online success. All right, you guys have a great day, and thank you again for joining our first session. Have a wonderful day.